Tom Lee joins us. He's the head of research for FUNDSTRAT Global Advisors. Tom, great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Your forecast, do you wish you put out a higher number at this point, given how much Bitcoin's risen in such a short amount of time?
Yeah. That number, it actually came from David Greider, who's our digital asset strategist. But I think in rounder numbers, 2021 is going to be a lot like 2017. Which means Bitcoin should do even better in 2021 than it did in 2020. So something above 300%.
More than 300% return on Bitcoin. Correct. Is what you're forecasting. We were just having a conversation about the interplay or the relationship potentially of a weaker dollar and a stronger Bitcoin. Is that part of this thesis? Is that part of your thesis, Tom?
It's going to be part of it for two reasons. First, Bitcoin, it's going to be denominated in something. So if the dollar's weakening, but Bitcoin holds its value, then Bitcoin goes up. But the more important effect is this year, we did see a lot of central bank liquidity. The dollar was really strong, surprisingly, for much of the year. But its weakness now really is going to make people think, how do you sort of keep a unit in sound money? A lot of people thought gold would be that sort of store, and I think it still has a reasonable basis to be, for someone to be long gold. But I think for younger folks and those who are in the digital generation, Bitcoin is that digital asset that they want to hold as a store value.
All right, let's pivot back to stocks, Tom. In terms of your Epicenter trade, you've been on this for a while. You think that's going to continue to be the theme in 2021, even though we've seen some pretty nice gains lately?
Yes. I mean, I think what people have to keep in mind about 2020 is two things. One is it was really a year where institutional investors were just trying to not do harm to their portfolio. So you didn't really see a lot of risk on from the financial institutions. And secondly, equities have seen negative mutual fund flows for nearly 10 years. I mean, so stocks have become the least favorite asset class for almost a decade. And I think 2020 was just a year where stocks proved to be pretty resilient. But I actually think that the epicenter stocks, or the cyclicals, have proven to be unkillable. I mean, we went through a depression. We should have seen a bunch of bankruptcies, but instead credit held. These companies slash cost. And so, as you know, people like operating leverage because it helps perpetual future value. And so I think these cyclicals or the epicenters are going to get not only top line surprise next year, but their multiples are going to really surprise us. And that means they could have a huge year.
Hey, Tom, it's Dan Nathan. How are you, bud? Great to have you here. Quick question here on the Bitcoin, okay? The last two times the stock market has corrected meaningfully in Q4 2018 and then obviously in Q1 of this year, Bitcoin got creamed. It got cut in half on both instances. And so just help us and I guess the viewers understand a little bit. One of the kind of bull cases is that store of value, also that uncorrelated nature to traditional risk assets. Why do you think we had those sorts of corrections at that point, those crashes, and what bars it from happening this time around after such a large rally in Bitcoin over the last 6 months or so?
Yeah, Dan, it's a good point. And, we have to keep in mind Bitcoin's holder base is still tiny. I don't think there's even really more than 1 million real people that own Bitcoin compared to nearly 1 billion people that own other financial instruments. So it's tiny. The penetration's 1/1000, so where it should be. And we've written about this, but Bitcoin acts like a risk-on asset. So in the years where the S&Ps performed the best are also the best years for equities. I mean, you could even interpret it, two ways. So I think if we have a correction in stocks, then Bitcoin's going to fall. And it's because a lot of the incremental buyers, if they're in the U.S., may be using leverage or risk on or risk appetite as a reason to add to Bitcoin. So it should actually be falling if stocks fall.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.